Hello, everyone. Welcome to Inside the Americas. Here's a look at what's coming up in today's show. Brazil mourns the loss of the Chapecoense football team. Almost all of the Brazilian club's members were killed when the plane crashed on its way to a regional final in Colombia. We'll then go to Rio, where just months after the curtain went down on the Summer Games, the city is seeing a new wave of violence, particularly in its slums. And as Cuba pays tribute to revolutionary leader Fidel Castro, we'll meet some young people there who are hoping his death will usher in some much-needed change. I'm Jeannie Godula. Well, we'll start first in Brazil, a country still in shock this week from the devastating loss of almost every member of the Chapecoense football team. The country is holding 3 days of mourning for the players, staff, and journalists who were among the 71 killed when the plane crashed in Colombia. Chapecoense was in the midst of a fairy tale season at the time and was on its way to the biggest match in its history when the chartered jet went down.
Some of the last pictures taken before the crash of Flight 2933. These two men survived the crash. One of them later died in hospital. On board the aircraft, 77 people, including players and staff from the Chapecoense football team, journalists and 9 crew members. As the plane approached Medellín Airport in Colombia, it crashed here in the mountains. Only 6 people survived: a journalist, 3 players and 2 staff members. Brazilian President Michel Temer has announced 3 days of mourning.
Sadly, all we can do beyond crying for those who have left us is to arrange federal government support for the families who are in mourning.
The footballers were on their way to play the first final of a major South American club competition in Colombia. At Chapecoense Stadium, hundreds of fans gathered to show their support. Player Alejandro Martinuccio, who didn't travel because he was nursing an injury, spoke of his grief.
It's very difficult thinking that I might have been there. Why I wasn't there. The fact that I wasn't there. It's very difficult. It's too much for my head.
The passengers were flying to Medellín in Colombia from Santa Cruz in Bolivia. It's believed that electrical failure may have caused the accident, but there was no fire inside the cabin. According to some reports, the pilot was dumping fuel in the final seconds of the flight. If true, this could be what saved the lives of the survivors.
Let's stay with Brazil now, going to Rio de Janeiro. That city is seeing a new wave of violence just months after the curtain went down on this year's Olympics. Last week, police moved into the notorious City of God favela. Residents accuse officers of murdering 7 local youths in an apparent revenge attack. Nicholas Ransom reports now on the price being paid by those caught in the crossfire.
Heleno Dias was working as a doorman when his life was cut brutally short in a shootout, one of more than 70 people to die violently in Rio de Janeiro since the beginning of November. He'd been planning to move back to his home state in northeastern Brazil. The violence in Rio scared him. His family lays the blame for his death at the door of the city's pampered politicians.
Every day someone dies. Politicians get paid on time. They go out in bulletproof cars with escorts, and we're here. That's it. Here's how they make us live. They're in their air-conditioned offices right now, and our cousin is being buried here, leaving 2 children behind.
It's what many Rio residents fear most: to be caught in a shootout like this one. They've long been a daily occurrence, prompting panic, like on this motorway where drivers beat a hasty retreat to avoid crossing the line of fire.
Look at the problems we're facing. Look at the population's despair. Who can stand living in a city like this?
Much gun violence is now reported by residents in real time, thanks to a new application called Crossfire. Launched just before the Olympic Games by Amnesty International, it's also aimed at alerting municipal authorities. In less than 4 months, 2,000 shootings have already been registered. The number of incidents has risen sharply in a matter of weeks.
What we've noticed in the last few months is a resurgence in the drug war, with factions fighting for control of different parts of the city and also between traffickers and mafias in certain neighborhoods, which is something new. It wasn't typical for traffickers and militiamen to be fighting like this. Sometimes we record 8 or 10 shootings in a single day.
The financial crisis engulfing the state of Rio de Janeiro is making the situation worse. While police wait on overdue salaries, many stations don't even have money to pay for paper to print out police reports. Gas for vehicles is also in short supply. Add to that a 36% increase in armed robberies this year, and it's clear the city's problems are refusing to go away.
Time now for our image of the week out of Cuba this time. Thousands of people gathered in Havana's Revolution Square to pay tribute to late leader Fidel Castro. He died last Friday at the age of 90 years old. 9 days of national mourning are being held in Cuba as Castro's cremated ashes travel across the country to their final resting place in the eastern city of Santiago, retracing his revolution victory tour of 1959. And while many of the thousands who are filling the streets see Castro as the father of the nation, not everyone feels the same. Catherine Clifford explains.
Thanking the man, they say, opened the door to higher education for them. On the steps leading up to Havana University, a smattering of students and teachers pay tribute to their fallen former leader.
Before, poor Cubans would never have been able to enroll at Havana University. Only the most well-off could afford it. The arrival of Fidel Castro and the revolution brought the opportunity for any Cuban citizen to become a student.
I come from a modest background, and despite this, I had the privilege of being able to choose the training I wanted without having to pay. Our books are free.
But here at this baseball pitch, not everyone agrees. Among the players, craftsmen, salesmen and lawyers who believe Fidel Castro's death represents new hope for change.
We hope for young people that things will move in new directions. Change is essential. There's not much work for young people. Something must be done. We can't go on like this.
I want internet to be available. I want Cubans to earn enough of a living to be able to travel abroad. Everyone here knows that we have huge economic problems. Food is expensive, very expensive.
In Havana's old town, tongues begin to loosen in the days that follow Castro's death.
He made the people suffer. He separated families. He had people killed. He trampled all over human rights.
Dissidents now fear an escalation in the regime's repression. Opponents have announced they're suspending their campaigns in order to respect national mourning and, above all, to avoid the state clamping down on rights out of fear of unrest.
Meanwhile, peace finally seems to be coming closer to a reality in Colombia. This week, the Senate approved a new version of the peace deal between the government and FARC rebels. That's the first step toward ratifying the agreement that was rejected by voters in a referendum last month. The new deal was voted in unanimously, but only after members of the right-wing party that's been leading the opposition walked out of the Senate in protest. The new text now needs to be approved by the lower house of Congress. And Haiti looks set to have a new president after over a year of political limbo. Preliminary results from the election earlier this month are giving the presidency to banana exporter Jovenel Moïse. His full majority means he won't have to have a second-round runoff next year. Moïse ran for the party of former President Michel Martelly. He was also the front-runner of the original election that was scrapped a year ago. Well, last week we told you about the advent of American football in Mexico, and we'll focus now on another sport that's taken the country even more by storm, women's boxing. That sport is still struggling to get recognition after decades of being shunned. It was only accepted into the Olympics as recently as 2012. But Mexico has long been a hub for boxing talent, churning out almost 200 world champs. But what's it like to be a woman boxing in a country that's rife with sexism and gender stereotypes? We found out.
Meet Brenda. known under her stage name as Bambi. But given her 5 years of boxing training, Thumper might be a better choice.
In the street, when people find out you're a boxer, they say, "What? You're a boxer?" They see your handbag, little skirts and heels.
Brenda's part of a wave of young women stepping into the ring in Mexico. Despite the country's reputation for masculine machismo, it seems a national love of boxing can transcend gender. Her trainer Oscar is a testament to this. Back in his own boxing days, he thought women had no place in the ring. Now he's training 6, including a world champion.
When I see they get tired during a fight, I say, "But you ladies are the ones who told me you could do this as well as men. You got into this. We didn't invite you, we didn't want you."
There has been progress, but there's still a lot of resistance to overcome. Brenda often feels she has a lot to prove. Tonight, she's taking on a more experienced opponent.
I want this to be a chance for us to show her off as a professional talent who can produce fights that are attractive for the public.
For Oscar, women's fights are filled with emotion as well as technique. The main challenge for women's boxing worldwide is overcoming a reputation for being less exciting than men's. Major US network HBO has never aired women headlining a fight. But this is going live on Mexico's biggest national TV network. Fans are starting to pay attention. Brenda will earn as much as her male counterparts for the fight. But if she reaches international success, she'll hit a massive gender pay gap. For now, though, she's just focused on giving the crowd what they want, and it seems to be working.
They're good fighters. It's the same standard as the boys.
It's good because they inspire women.
The fight's declared a draw.
I'm annoyed about the result, but I'm pleased with the crowd's reaction. Who said that I'd won?
That support might be just what she needs to propel her career to glory.
Well, that wraps it up for this week's edition of Inside the Americas. See you soon.